Ladies and gentlemen, we got some breaking news with the Phoenix Suns as they just finessed the NBA. That is right, ladies and gentlemen. Matt Ishbia got on the phones and got busy moving center Yusuf Nurkic to the Charlotte Hornets in return for two players in Cody Martin and Vasily Micic. And we're going to be breaking down all of this as this has huge implications for the Phoenix Suns as they still try to pursue and get some better offers through this season. Welcome back to this episode here on Trade Deadline Special on Suns Digest. I'm Bruce Velez with my co-host Curtis. And Curtis, we finally saw something go down. It's absolutely fantastic, man.
We have been waiting so long, man. We've been sitting here on the edge of our seat, just like all of you guys out there that watch us on Suns Digest, waiting for something to happen. And we finally got a move, man. And it's one of the guys we've been talking about that we've wanted to move and that we needed to move. Finally happened, man.
It's finally happening. This is the greatest sight to see. And I truly think the Suns finessed and fleeced the NBA when we dive into what implications this could be for the Suns team in the future as well, Curtis. But without further ado, guys, Curtis and I will be once again live today breaking down stuff like this in more depth, going over the Suns and talking about everything trade deadline on our weekly live stream. So definitely check us out. But let's dive in and let's get into the video today, Curtis. Like I meant, the Suns made some moves. Finally, we saw them make the trade for Nick Richards. We saw them move their 2031 first for multiple other firsts, but they finally went out and made a move on the actual trade front here in sending away Yusuf Nurkic in a 2026 first round pick to the Charlotte Hornets for Cody Martin, Vasily Micic, and a 2026 second round pick. And it's kind of weird. The Suns and Hornets getting involved in another trade after acquiring Nick Richards. The Suns did try to trade Yusuf Nurkic for Nick Richards. Were unable to do so, but offload Yusuf Nurkic after the Hornets trade away Mark Williams. If we look at it in a little bit of a brighter sense here, like I mentioned, Suns will be getting a second round pick in this, which is solid. Now they have two second round picks. They did give up one first, but now they still have two firsts. And I believe that is a Suns first or a Suns first swap. I don't necessarily know. It's kind of tough to judge here. But now we look at the Suns roster. 18 guys under roster. And if you look at how it's spread up, it looks a little bit nicer now as there's no $18 million from Yusuf Nurkic from a player not playing. You got that filled up into two contracts in Cody Martin and Vasily Micic. $8 million and $7 million. Cody Martin, 29-year-old small forward. Micic, 31-year-old point guard. Curtis, when you see this, what's your thoughts, man?
My thoughts are initially, I'm looking at Misic and I'm like, this guy can hoop, right? And I'm a fan of him. I think that he'd actually be very good on there, and then we can push Tyus over into the bench and have him come off the bench and let Misic get the starting lineup role. I think he'd play very well alongside Booker on that starting lineup. But there's a little bit more to be said about why this deal happens, right? What are you thinking, Bruce?
So what I'm seeing with this is I'm seeing that the Suns are gearing up for more stuff coming. And I think that this is going to help out with Kevin Durant. I know that there's been some discussions of even though Kevin Durant has discussed a trade rumor that other teams are still being aggressive to trade for him. I don't think the Suns are going to trade him. They're going to keep Kevin Durant this offseason, regardless of what, even if Kevin Durant was blindsided by a trade proposal where they almost going to send him out where he had to deny the trade request. Kevin Durant still wants to stay in Phoenix. He still wants to compete here regardless. And I think that the Suns are going to move around the edges. Micic, I think, like you mentioned, provides a lot for the Suns team as a playmaking point guard. He's a little bit bigger than Tyus, and I think
Yes.
he kind of fits in as that like backup kind of piece as well. But the one good thing is with adding Micic is possibly Tyus or Monte could be on the move for the Suns with making even more moves. And then adding Cody Martin, just adding another wing defender, that's what the Suns need. They don't need shooting, they don't need scoring, they need wing defending. So adding a guy like Cody Martin to kind of replace that Josh Okogie defensive wing player role, but a little bit bigger in size, I think is very, very helpful with this Suns team. But Curtis, you brought something up that I want to get into, which is alluding to the future with this Suns team, is there could be more on the way with this squad. And if we look at this roster here, like I mentioned, from Brett Siegel, Martin and Micic can both be waived by the Suns in the offseason with no penalty. And doing so would move the Suns below the second apron for this season with a win now move made by the Suns because of Kevin Durant. Was this a win now move or one made by the Suns because Kevin Durant could be moved in the offseason? And ultimately, I think this is a win now move for Kevin Durant. And I broke this down on my Twitter last night. But Curtis and I, we talked about this before we went live. But the Suns are $28.2 million over the second apron here. And what is stopping them from trading Yusuf Nurkic for a player like Larry Nance? Unfortunately, they didn't trade for Larry Nance, but they traded for Martin and Micic to drop them a little bit of money, trade Tyus for some second rounders, and move Grayson Allen for Obi Toppin, saving them $3 million. Now you have saved roughly 10 million this season. And if you don't bring back Misic, you don't bring back Martin, that drops you below the first apron with even not signing Tyus, signing some of these guys, letting go of Bull, Damian Lee, and Mason Plumlee. Now you are a first apron team, like Brett Siegel was saying. Now you have the flexibility to move off a Bradley Beal contract with players like Booker, KD, Dunn, Oso, Nick Richards, Royce O'Neal, and top and under roster to ultimately make more moves. And yes, you would have to use some draft capital, like we just saw with this Nurkic trade here, obviously, but the Suns got draft capital back. So who's to say that you're not going to get even more draft capital in trading some of those players? Honestly, that's what I think the Phoenix Suns need to do. Is I think they need to retool, refresh, and I think they did that first here with this move right now. Like I
Mm-hmm.
said, getting
Mm-hmm.
Misic, getting Martin, getting filler in players, letting Kevin Durant know, like, hey, we're still committed to wanting to play with you. Yusuf Nurkic was not playing. He outed the coach. He was making $18 million, the fourth most on the roster, had been benched for over a month, causing relationship issues. That was a headache that needed to be taken out of. And now that that headache's taken out of the locker room, maybe some other internal changes that we have in changes we see with the Suns maybe can get fixed, can get a little bit better going into this season, and then they can really reset themselves going into next year because they'll have, like I said, Richards, Dunn, Oso, KD, Booker, Royce, top and under roster. They have 7 to 8 guys already under constructed roster, and then you just plug in, fill in the holes with a Bradley Beal trade. Okay, we need a point guard, we get some extra point guard. We need some more bench help at the
Right.
center, we go get that. It's a little bit more easier to make those moves.
Yeah, I would like to keep Misic, and then if we're going to make moves like that, right, with Beal, we can start filling in gaps. If we do need him to be on off the bench, then we can make a play for a starting point guard, somebody that can really put up buckets for us. We can wheel and deal Grayson at this point because uh, if we have Martin down there in the three, then he'll be able to play a little bit of position swap with Booker. He comes out, and then we put him there. Even though he's a small forward, he can still play the two, and that would be a good defensive two out there, right? If you have him out there in the lineup, we'll get a new point guard, a scoring point guard, and then you have KD out there, and you have Martin out there, and you have a lockdown for the opposing two. You have a lot of scoring on the board still. I'm liking what we're doing here. We still have a gap to fill down there in the paint with Nick Richards. I'm looking for something to happen with that. I'm literally looking at my phone and trying to listen to you talk because I called that while we were making this video that there was going to be another trade that happened, and I hope it does because I want somebody to be picked up to hold us down there in that post. But that could be coming in the offseason if nothing happens for the rest of the day. I don't think that's going to be the case, but in the offseason we could get that Beal deal done and then get that big that we so desperately need. And then when we come back into the next season, we could be monstrous. But that is still to be said for the rest of the day because we could still become pretty dangerous today if we can get some more done before this trade deadline hits.
Yeah, I agree, and I think you kind of hit it home. I think the Suns would like to try to get off Bradley Beal now, but with an hour left to go before the trade deadline, as of right
Yeah.
now, it's not looking like it's going to possibly get done unless we see some shot clock cheese or something like that. But I think there's some players around the edges, right, Curtis? You
Yep.
mentioned some other guys getting another big to fill in for Nick Richards, right? The Suns just got that hole and replacing that wing that they lost in Josh Okogie, a little bit of a bigger sized one, and just addressed a position by adding another point guard. Now, when they were going to trade Nurkic away, they were always going to take two salaries on, but the Suns have always had 14 guys under roster this season. So we've already seen guys get shafted and not being getting much playing time with that. So I do expect the Suns to make more moves, regardless if it's some guys getting waived, some guys getting traded for second round picks. I'd still keep an eye out on either a Grayson Allen or Royce O'Neal move for a center, like you were mentioning, possibly even a Bull move for another big man as well. But definitely keep your eyes out, folks, as on Suns Digest, we'll have everything coming towards you guys on anything trade front related with this Suns team. So, like I said, if anything happens after this Yusuf Nurkic trade, Curtis and I will be here to break it down. And if not, we'll give our thoughts on this Suns team in our weekly live stream where we break down the Phoenix Suns team, looking at a week, looking at the trade deadline as a whole, and kind of going and looking over where the Suns compare to some of these teams in the Western Conference. And you guys definitely don't want to miss that. But like Curtis and I said, finally, the Suns are off Yusuf Nurkic's contract. I would have traded him for a burnt cookie, but they got rid of him already. He's not on the team anymore. They got some holes to fix, but I still think we're trending in the right direction. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode here on Suns Digest once again from your boys Bruce and Curtis. We really do appreciate all your guys' support. So, like I said, leave your thoughts down below in the comment section, and we'll catch you guys in the next video. Hope to see you soon with another Suns trade. Catch you guys later. Have a great rest of your day, and peace out.